Cage match fighting is coming to the White House. Crews have been seen erecting a 6-foot wire mesh fence shaped into an octagon on the White House lawn, ahead of a martial arts show timed for US President Donald Trump's 80th birthday and as part of the US 250th anniversary celebrations. Trump is known as a proud proponent of cage match politics. He was the first sitting president to attend a UFC show, sitting courtside in 2019. The league is planning to issue 85,000 free tickets for the event, which falls on a Sunday. Trump has said all top guys will be featured.
This decision slams the brakes on the Republicans' plan to go back to a 6-1 split on congressional seats after the last redistricting map allowed for a second black representative in Shamari figures. The federal 3-judge panel ruled the map Republicans want to use is gerrymander to dilute the power of black voters. The panel laid out many examples of evidence they used to validate that decision in the 100-page ruling, at one point saying, "We cannot see our way clear to requiring Alabamians to cast their votes in the 2026 elections under a districting plan tainted by intentional race-based discrimination." We asked constitutional law attorney Eric Johnson about the panel's decision.
Maybe you could say they knew where they wanted to go with it, and so they got the evidence together, and then they spelled it out that it supported what they wanted to do. Now, whether that's true or not, I can't read into the motivations of the judges, but hopefully what they based their opinion on today was the facts clearly. But the Republicans would disagree with that and say that they were biased.
Tensions are escalating in the Strait of Hormuz following American strikes on Iranian targets, including a small number of vessels reportedly laying mines in the strait.
I think it's a foolish move in which they're playing with fire, and if they get too dangerous, President Trump may return fire.
Iran is now denouncing those attacks, calling them ceasefire violations and warning of potential military consequences.
They did not imagine that our armed forces, our defensive power, and our offensive system could perform such feats.
But the regime is under intense economic pressure as a result of the U.S. naval blockade. Iranian exports are down 90%, crude oil extractions cut in half, and the country is suffering. That pressure is helping move negotiations forward, but big sticking points remain, including Iran's demands for tolls from ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz.
And there's no country in the world that's in favor of a tolling system except with the regime in Iran, so that's not acceptable.
But of course, the biggest area of disagreement is still the nuclear issue, and there's growing evidence the hardline elements of Iran's government simply aren't willing to give up their nuclear program.
The regime is intact, the hardliners are in control, they're all about recovery now. I'm sure inside their circles they haven't changed their goals one bit. They still want to be a nuclear power.
Iran's president has ordered internet access restored across the country, a possible sign the regime is softening its crackdown. In Tel Aviv, Trey Yingst, Fox News.
Daily burials continue in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where an Ebola outbreak is growing.
Tomorrow, there will be more sick people coming. We are afraid. We are really afraid.
The Trump administration is reportedly expected to deploy public officials from the U.S. to Kenya to staff a potential quarantine facility there. It would be intended for Americans in the region who test positive for the disease or who are potentially exposed.
Although this poses no major threat to the general public in the United States, it is something that we have to recognize could impact the United States, and I think that's why it's really important to extinguish this outbreak at its source.
Staff from the World Health Organization are arriving in Congo today to assess response efforts. So far, there have been more than 900 suspected cases and hundreds of deaths. Local officials say there's growing pressure on the health system due to a shortage of protective equipment and attacks on treatment facilities.
Funding remains urgently needed, as well as sustained and safe access, so that responders can be protected from the Ebola virus.
And now, more countries are putting travel restrictions in place. Yesterday, Canada announced a temporary pause on processing immigration applications from people in affected countries.
We intend for these measures to be in place for 90 days. If needed, we would extend or amend or lift them sooner.
There is no vaccine for this strain of Ebola, but early supportive care can reduce mortality rates. In London, Greg Palcott, Fox News.
By the time this security footage was recorded, Brian Rayo Garzon had been held for nearly 2 weeks in a Missouri jail. The Colombian native was detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement after getting arrested on a misdemeanor fraud charge in St. Louis.
Our routine was to always say goodbye and a prayer.
His mother, Adriana Garzon, says her son had not been allowed to call her for several days. He passed a note to guards, writing in Spanish, "I've gone 4 days without communicating with my mother, and I feel in my heart she's worried about me. I beg you, please." Rayo's mother finally received a call, this one notifying her that her 27-year-old son was in critical condition after a suicide attempt. Security video shows jail staff and first responders performing CPR. He was taken to a local hospital and later flown to another where he was pronounced dead.
It was insensitive. I know they had to give me the news, but to me it felt like they were dumping him.
An Associated Press investigation found that Rayo and at least 9 other ICE detainees have died by suicide since April 2025. That's an unprecedented spike, even accounting for the rapid growth in the detainee population during President Donald Trump's second term in office. The AP reviewed ICE death notifications, autopsy reports, coroner's rulings, and police and EMS records related to 51 detainees who've died in ICE custody since January 2025. Nearly 1/5 of the deaths have been classified as suicides. Like Rayo, most were young Hispanic men who'd been in ICE custody for less than a month.
What also is striking is the sudden trajectory of increase that one sees in the more recent years. Also, the proportion being so high, essentially 1 in 5 deaths from suicide. Suicide being the most extreme endpoint of a broader mental health concern indicates that something is going profoundly wrong if that many suicides are occurring as a proportion of people.
The AP investigation found that staff at detention facilities ignored signs of distress, denied or delayed mental health treatment, and failed to monitor detainees who were already deemed at risk. In some cases, they moved detainees to isolation cells that experts say can exacerbate feelings of helplessness. Rayo was placed in medical isolation after he was diagnosed with COVID-19. The Department of Homeland Security says suicide remains extremely rare during the Trump administration, and that detention staff follow strict protocols to ensure the safety of detainees who show signs of self-harm. Phelps County had started housing ICE detainees shortly before Rayo was placed there. Sheriff Michael Kern didn't return messages seeking comment. DHS says Rayo received high-quality medical care during his time in ICE custody, a point that his mother disputes.
He asked for psychological help. They didn't give it to him. To me, that's negligence.
Rayo had entered the country illegally in 2023, and a judge ordered his removal the next year. His family said he was trying to save money to hire a lawyer to try to stay in the United States. His mother now keeps a candle lit for her son.
Every day we talk about him, every day. There is no day where we don't say his name.
So we are discussing 3 moon-based missions and a series of additional awards with more missions to be announced in the months ahead. Now, Moonbase 1 will be the first privately funded lunar lander mission in history. The Blue Origin Mark I Endurance lander will deliver multiple payloads to the Shackleton Connecting Ridge, a strategic area of the lunar South Pole. Moonbase 2 will be the largest commercial payload delivered to the lunar surface ever. This mission will help mature the capabilities necessary to support future lunar terrain vehicles, autonomous operations, logistics, and especially the LTV astronaut mobility. Moonbase 3 will expand our scientific understanding of the lunar surface. Moonbase 2 and 3 are targeted to launch before the end of 2026. Now, these represent the first of more than a dozen missions we expect to announce through the balance of this year as we return, build the base, and never give up the moon again.
Moonbase will be home base for our Artemis crews and will encompass long-duration stays, expanded robotic and human capabilities, and an enduring presence on the lunar surface. With Moonbase, Artemis astronauts will stay longer, explore farther, and conduct the kinds of science that advances exploration itself, understanding how humans operate off-world, how we build infrastructure, and how we prepare for Mars.
Change was on the ballot, and change won.
After a last-minute endorsement from President Trump, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is the latest challenger to unseat a GOP incumbent.
President Trump is the leader of our party, and his endorsement in this is the most powerful force in politics.
We have a movement the likes of which this country has never seen.
The president endorsed Paxton last week over sitting Senator John Cornyn, citing Cornyn's delay in supporting his presidential run as the reason. Cornyn now joins a growing list of Republicans who've lost their seats in Washington by going against Trump.
I trust the voters of Texas, and they've made their decision, and I must respect it.
The cardinal rule in politics is if you can't turn out your base, you can't win. And right now, we know that President Trump's supporters are the base of the Republican Party.
But Paxton is not without controversy, and his road to Washington might not be as easy as Texas Republicans are used to. He was impeached in 2023 on bribery and corruption charges, but was later acquitted by the Texas State Senate. And last year, his wife announced she was divorcing him on biblical grounds. Democrats think this could all help their candidate, James Tallarico, win in November.
Tallarico is talking to people about their real needs. We are going to win Texas.
So far in 2026, no Trump-endorsed candidate has lost a primary race. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
Retail sales in focus. Bath & Body Works reported lower first quarter sales as the company overhauls its strategy. In an attempt to return to growth, the chain reported a 3% drop in first quarter net sales to $1.38 billion. Dick's Sporting Goods reported higher fiscal first quarter sales as its efforts to turn around the recently acquired Foot Locker delivered results. Sales rose to $5.17 billion. Meanwhile, the $1 trillion club keeps getting bigger. South Korea's chipmaker SK Hynix now has a market value of $1 trillion. Micron Technology reached the milestone Tuesday. Demand for AI chips is pushing those stocks sharply higher. And Ferrari's first fully electric vehicle, the Luce, which means light in Italian, is priced at $640,000, which critics are slamming. Along with the vehicle's appearance, some calling it ugly, while others simply saying the vehicle is, quote, surprising, with its exaggerated glass roof design and unique exteriors. It also pointed out that the Luce is very similar to many cheaper EVs like the Nissan Leaf. Ferrari execs are calling it a car of the future. CJ Papa, Fox News.
This year alone in the U.S., there are expected to be more than 55,000 deaths from colorectal cancer. Studies show early detection saves lives, but 1 in 3 eligible adults is not getting screened.
Colonoscopy still remains, a test that's where there's no test that's better. But there are folks that are unable or unwilling to undergo a colonoscopy.
That's why the American Cancer Society released these new guidelines aimed at encouraging more people to get tested by expanding colorectal cancer screening options. For those at average risk for the disease, 2 at-home stool-based tests are now being recommended every 3 years. One is a next-generation test sold under the name Cologuard. It tests for DNA mutations, looking for hidden blood and certain genes, proteins, or other molecules that may be a sign of cancer in stool samples. The second, called ColoSense, tests for RNA markers, which can detect abnormal growth or cells in the colon and blood not visible to the naked eye. And for the first time, the guidelines now back a blood-based colorectal cancer screening test taken in a doctor's office, although experts say this test is less effective.
The test that one does is really the best test out there for them.
The guidelines also reaffirm that average-risk adults should start colorectal cancer screening at age 45 through age 75 for those with a life expectancy greater than 10 years. And if any stool or blood-based test comes back abnormal, a colonoscopy is then needed within 6 months. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
This is what sort of gave us the idea to really dig into our archives.
Star Trek Secrets Revealed. The documentary series Inside the Roddenberry Archive features a treasure trove of rare items, including the long-lost original Starship Enterprise model. The show is set to stream on the Beam by Roddenberry YouTube channel.
We must face the facts! The facts! However frightening they may be!
Andrew Scott's meteorologist faces off with Brendan Fraser's General Eisenhower over the forecast for D-Day in Pressure.
One of the things that I think they share is a sense of humility, a sense of duty, and a sense that, I want to do the right thing.
Pressure opens in theaters Friday.
The weather is unstable.
We're limited in how we can train.
You talk about the traveling. Greenland is bigger than Europe.
Weather also plays a major role in No Place for Football. The documentary looks at a Greenland club facing the world's shortest football season as they strive to win a championship for their community and keep playing the sport they love. No Place for Football debuts Friday on digital platforms. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
I hereby declare this annual Nick Weekend. May we all come here together for the rest of our lives.
The dramedy continues in the second season of The Four Seasons.
Jack's having a hard time lately. At night, he barely talks to me.
The new season includes a new vacation destination.
We got to go to Trento, Italy this year, which was stunning, and we were there right before Christmas and these beautiful Christmas markets. And our hope is that it feels like you got to come with us, but even if it somehow didn't, we got to go. So.
Hello. It's like an exciting challenge to have characters that now know pretty well and be able to sort of extrapolate in any direction you want for season 2.
We love this show so much and see ourselves in it so much, and it feels to me so much more personal than other shows that I've done, that I take it personally.
If I had $1 for every time you told me, oh, thank God I don't have kids.
Well, you'd have like $60. Calm down.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
Take a look at a fashionable knitted dress that literally got its roots from the wood of a 17th century shipwreck. According to Finland's Aalto University, with the assistance of AI technology, a pair of dresses were created from the surplus wood of an ancient shipwreck discovered beneath a parking lot in 2019. Working with the Finnish Heritage Agency, university researchers say the wood contained very few impurities and was surprisingly easy to process, and shared a look on social media at the procedure to shred, dissolve, transform, and spin the wood fibers into fabric. The resulting knitted maxi dresses have a subtle brown hue, which, according to the university, is derived not from dyes, but originates directly from the 300-plus-year-old wood's natural color. The dresses will soon be on display to the public in a pair of museum exhibits celebrating this impressive effort of innovation and conservation. What's old is indeed new again, and it doesn't get much older than Stonehenge. That's where a team of some 100 volunteers are constructing the largest ever replica of a prehistoric building at the ancient site. According to the English Heritage Trust, the reconstruction of this 4,500-year-old Neolithic building is not only based on archaeological evidence of a structure researchers say once stood near Stonehenge, but it is also being constructed entirely using historically accurate tools and methods from the period, as well as locally sourced materials. Once finished, the so-called Kasuma Neolithic Hall will be open to the public and eventually used as a living history learning space for visiting school groups. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
For the first time in Flower Bluff ISD history, a plane built by high school students took to the skies Tuesday morning. Dozens of students and staff lined Waldron Road, watching as their fellow Hornets creation soared overhead. After the plane touched back down at Corpus Christi International Airport, I caught up with student Barrett Matthews, who helped build the aircraft and got to experience his creation from the sky.
It was surreal. Like I said earlier, it's crazy to work on something for 3 years and then actually see it work. Because you run into so many problems and you're like, there's no way this thing's gonna fly. It's built by kids. And then you're flying over and you're like, oh my God, this is crazy.
The project I first reported on in February started with just a single crate of parts and took nearly 3 years to complete, with multiple classes of students rotating through the build. For aviation instructor Caleb Harris, seeing his students' hard work finally take flight was the ultimate validation.
The whole time, though, for me and for the students, the real milestone is flying. And so that's really good to see.
But for senior Jolena Matos, who worked on the left wing and experienced the flight firsthand, this historic moment is just the foundation for something bigger.
This is the first plane, and I hope that because of this and the success that has happened with this plane, we'll be able to keep the program alive and going, and more people will have the same opportunity that I've been given.
For Superintendent Chris Steinbrook, Tuesday's flight represented more than just a successful project. It was a blueprint for the future of hands-on learning.
Well, this is exactly what career technical education should look like. So our students, over the course of 2 years, were able to work with the most skilled aviation professionals in the world to build this airplane.
The Corpus Christi Army Depot provided expertise and guidance to help make this dream a reality. And for Depot Commander Colonel Kevin Constantine, the partnership reflects the community's deep aviation roots.
So aviation maintenance and aviation sustainment is in the blood of this community, and that's what we're seeing out here today.
Fox 54 Plus has your news, sports, and weather. Start your evening with Fox 54 at 5:30, delivering the latest headlines and live reports straight from the scene. Then stay informed with Fox 54 News at 9, featuring your Tennessee Valley certified most accurate weather impact team, tracking everything from tornado threats to traffic delays during severe weather. Fox 54 Sports Extra brings you more of what sports fans crave, with deeper insights, expert analysis, and all the action that matters most. On Fox 54 Plus, you'll also find Alabama politics, plus 24/7 weather radar and real-time forecasts to keep you ahead of the storm. Looking for a quick recap? Don't miss Fox 54 Week in Review, highlighting the biggest stories of the week. Jumpstart your morning with Morning Rush, fast-paced news updates featured with uplifting stories from across the globe. Get your entertainment fix with Getting Real, where we break down movie reviews, top 10 lists, and spotlight the newest film. Die Hard fan? Locked On Sports dives deep into the Crimson Tide, the Tigers, college rivalries, and pro action. True crime warrior style? Killer Cases brings you gripping real-life stories that stick with you. Hungry for more? Cooking with Style serves up mouth-watering recipes that are easy to make and impossible to resist. From movie previews before you head to the theater with Take a Look, to must-know headlines from across the region and around the world with In the News. Watch all of these shows on demand and also on the Fox 54 News app. Available on Android and iOS devices. Streaming 24/7.
There's more to Fox 54 Plus with the Locked On Podcast Network. From the Tide to the Tigers, from college teams to pro, the Locked On Podcast Network gives you insights and analysis you just can't find anywhere else.
These kids, they want to play.
And I don't think so. I think it was Chad Baker Mazzara.
Locked On Sports, streaming every day of the week and right here on Fox 54 Plus.
This is what he's going to tell you.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir. The only thing they could do was kill him.
Be the jury and to find the defendant